Gigs on the track.
All right, guys, check it out. So as you can tell by the title of this podcast, it's an extremely sensitive, important, and dangerous conversation to have. Although I don't think that it should be dangerous. That's exactly what I want to talk to you right now before we get into the discussion. This is an important topic to society. Therefore, it is important for society to partake into the discussion. What I'm trying to say to you is that if somebody has told you that you should not speak out to this because you don't represent a certain demographic, they are wrong. You have a say in this topic. You have a say in what goes on in our government, in our laws, in our cities, in our states. You have a say. And if anybody else says otherwise, they are wrong. I do not care if you are pro-life, pro-choice, if you are male, female, black, white, purple, blue, green, it does not matter. You have a say in what goes on tomorrow. Do not let anybody else tell you otherwise. So when you're listening to this discussion, keep in mind that your voice does and absolutely matters, and you should speak up 100%. I received a private message on one of my Instagram posts that said, no 30-year-old white man should have a part in this discussion, which in itself is pretty discriminating and racist. But we're not going to go there. I just want to let you know that it does not matter who you are. This will affect generations to come. Your voice matters, whether other people think that it's right or wrong. And you have the right to speak out and use your voice. That is the most important thing that we have as Americans. So make sure that y'all use your voice. Thank you all so much. I appreciate everybody that has been tuning in to all these episodes. If you have any suggestions for the next episodes coming up, make sure you leave them down in the comment section below. If you want to contact me, the best way to do that is through Instagram, and the handle is that The Real Common Podcast. That's on Instagram. Best way to get in contact with me. If you're listening to the podcast for the very first time, the podcast is available on YouTube. That's where you'll find the video. And then the audio is on any other platform that you can find podcasts on. And you're going to find both of those at The Common Podcast. That's the name of the podcast. So thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate y'all. Remember, you are the hero of tomorrow. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the episode.
Gigs on the track.
Welcome to another episode of The Common Podcast, where we speak upon common sense and realize it really isn't that common. Ladies and gentlemen, we're finally here. I know a lot of people have been asking, talk about abortion, since it's been a reoccurring situation. Everybody's talking about it, and that's what we're here to do. I got my good friend, Mr. Italo,
What's up,
once again.
Yeah, man.
So
Glad to be here, man.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, that haven't heard the other podcast, Mr. Italo is a pastor.
That's right.
And so I thought, why not I think it'd be a good conversation to have a pastor on. I think that's going to be...
Yeah, and based on what's on the news, we're not going to be giving out the address of my church on this podcast.
Oh, yeah, most definitely, right? So today, guys, the conversation is obviously going to be about abortion. This is a very important but very dangerous topic to have as well. But I do think that it is something that everybody needs to be discussing, because it affects directly to our society, and therefore you and I and the people that are listening right now are society, and you need to have a say in what happens in and around your life and the generations to come, your kids, and all these things. So don't let anybody tell you that your voice is not worthy. If you're listening to this, I would very well recommend that you put together a well thought about this situation and speak out about it because it's important. And I don't be afraid of offending anybody.
It's a conversation you want to have.
It is a conversation you want to have. And I understand that any opinion you're going to offend people. Any opinion worth having is going to offend people.
Yeah.
Kind of like comedy.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a joke if you're not going to offend someone. So, with that being said, Mr. Italo, welcome back on.
Yeah,
and
my pleasure, man.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Roe versus Wade case, which is coming back up. Apparently, there was documents leaked, and that's what all this is going on. There's like riots and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a case from Mississippi, which is for a pro-life law that would really impair abortions in Mississippi.
Yes.
And I think practically and abortions in Mississippi. And I'm not very familiar with the letter, of the case. I just know generalities of it.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
I did listen to the to the documents that were leaked by the leaked documents from the Supreme Court of the United States. I've heard some of the excerpts from the document from Samuel Alito, who wrote the opinion. And it's a big deal. This is a big deal. This is because what's happening is based on the leak, which is criminal, by the way. This is a criminal offense. Like whoever leaked this should be charged. And there's also in our criminal code, you cannot coerce, you cannot go loiter around a judge's house. That's a crime. People can be charged for these things. But anyway, so the leaked documents, they show that the Supreme Court of the United States is about to overturn Roe versus Wade, and Samuel Alito's piece gives the rationale for it.
Yeah. So what I want to get into, because we're on the case of the government and the state and whatnot. So I would very well assume that you are quote unquote pro-life.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say quote unquote. Or say I'm pro-life.
Well, it's because before the podcast you were talking about the terminology of pro-choice.
The war of words, right? It's the war of words.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so by definition, and this might surprise you, by definition, I might be what people would consider pro-choice.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think this is going to be a very good conversation to have, right? Is it pro-lifer versus pro-choice? People like drama, right?
Yeah, and I would start there then. So I'm pro-life, and you're trying to call yourself pro-choice. And I say trying to call yourself.
Yes.
Because what you're doing here is you're building a reality with that word. You are making your reality about this choice that you say it's going on. There's a choice out there, and I'm for it. But there's no choice going on in an abortion room.
And let's be clear about that. Like what is abortion?
Yeah. So what's happening in that room that you think you're pro-choice?
Yeah.
Like, why do you think that is? Like, let's take the idea behind abortion, the abortion movement, Planned Parenthood, and quote unquote pro-choice. I think a lot of people who are pro-abortion today, they haven't reckoned with some of the history behind that. They haven't reckoned with who Margaret Sanger is or was. They haven't dealt with that.
Yeah.
If you don't know who Margaret Sanger is, this is probably not the place for us to go into that. But you need to look it up. It's public, it's public knowledge. But she was a racist. Abortion movement has more to do with eugenics than it has to do with feminism, the feminist movement, because there is an idea behind this, and the idea is that there are some lives that are just not worth living. Some lives are not worth of life. Some people are just not as valuable,
not worthy
as you, depending on their age or location or abilities to care for themselves, that they are not as valuable. So they don't have a choice. So this is what's happening at an abortion clinic, is a search and destroy mission. There aren't two patients in that room. There is someone who is searching a human person to snuff the life out of that person. And if there's two persons, once the process is done, then that's a failure, right? Then the abortionist has failed.
Yeah. Listen, guys, are y'all tired of being fat and unhealthy? Look, I feel you. I've struggled with weight loss for a majority of my life, but I recently lost 32 pounds. I want to tell y'all exactly how I did it. I changed my diet. I ate a little bit healthier. I know how hard that can be with so much convenient fast food restaurants, convenient grab-and-go foods that you can just pick up and go. But I want to show y'all a way where y'all can stay convenient and eat a bit healthier. That's why I want to tell y'all about my good friends at Primitive Eats. It's a local, homegrown, small business that is a meal prep company. And they are derived off the paleo diet. Really quickly, paleo is just a natural way of eating food. Taking out simple carbs, sticking to the earth. Okay? It is very good for you. It's very healthy for you, and you can support a local small business. It's always great. So if you're in the Los Fresnos, Brownsville, or Harlingen, San Benito area, go check them out. They have plans where you can buy for the full week. They will deliver it for you. Quick, easy, and go, and it's super delicious. They support the podcast. I support them. Go check them out. And if you don't want to get their meal plan, listen, check out their Instagram. That is Primitive Eats 90. I'm going to leave it in the description. If you're not going to follow them for the meal preps, follow them for their memes, because their memes are hilarious. Also, little quick fun fact, they do raffles, which I recently won concert tickets on their page. True story. Go check them out. I support Primitive Eats. Primitive Eats supports the podcast, and we love them. Go check them out. So I would really like your response on this, because I believe that in a biblical sense speaking, that salvation comes down to the individual. Would you agree with that? That your decision ultimately will decide.
I guess if by that you mean whether or not I'm a Christian, like whether or not I'm saved. Let's not, we haven't defined that, but whether or not I have eternal life, like that's like Jesus offers in the Bible.
Yeah,
comes to my own faith, whether or not I believe.
Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
Italo can't save me.
In the sense that there is something personal that is happening in salvation.
Yeah,
I would go one step back, but let's see where you're taking this.
So I believe the salvation goes down to the individual. And what I mean by that is nobody can save me. Not a pastor, not a church. They're great influences, but it comes down to if I believe or not. And I need to make that choice, that deliberate choice to say, I believe in God. I believe that Jesus came, died, and rose from the dead. Now, saying that, I believe that I guess where I'm torn is I don't know how much that I want the government to have a say in the individual life and the decision making, because as a Christian, we do have free will, right? And so God has given us the liberty to decide.
Okay, so what you're doing is you're making a correspondence here. You're corresponding. Look, for me to be saved, it's a personal choice.
Yep.
Why can't this one be a personal choice? Because if I take this one, would I not be taking this one as well?
Yes, I mean, because people's argument, so the pro-life argument is that people are going to regret it.
Oh, no. The pro-life argument is much more sophisticated than that.
But that's one of their arguments, is that these women tend to either immediately or in the long run, they're going to regret their choice by...
That is one.
Yeah.
One of the arguments, because I care about women. Of course I care about women.
Yeah.
A lot. So that I know firsthand accounts of people who have committed abortions. So I know what this is.
Yeah.
And so I care about the women, but that wouldn't be my fundamental argument. I have a foundational argument that goes way before that one.
So what you're basically saying is that that's a weak argument upon.
I would say that argument is meaningless, yeah, without what's fundamental, because you're saying she's gonna regret it. Why?
That's a good, and I would like to get into the fundamentals. In a
Why is
second
she gonna
because
regret it? Right?
yeah.
What is happening here?
There's actually a study that I listened to. It was a podcast a couple of days ago because I was obviously preparing for this conversation, and there was a study supposedly, and it's a weak study, but supposedly women don't regret it. Like in the long run, well, some do, but the vast majority, according to this person who was a very strong pro-choicer, was obviously pushing an agenda.
Yeah.
But apparently that, the vast majority were happy.
No, yeah, I
Happily
push an
ever
agenda
after.
too. I just think that. By the way, I want to do a shout out. Shout out to Students for Life. Students for Life. It's a great organization. If you want more information on this, I don't think Roger and I are gonna touch on everything on this podcast. You might want to look up Students for Life. It's a popular channel on YouTube, and you're gonna enjoy some of those conversations. You have a lot of good things in there. But yeah, there's a fundamental. They have good research. They have good data. They actually show just what is public, even from pro-abortion organizations. Just to show, look, this is what their data shows. I mean. So
That'll be the first link in the description, guys. So if you want to go check that out, very important. That's gonna be the first link.
yeah,
Go
you might want to
check
make a note
those.
for that. That you need to put a link there for them. But anyways, yeah, Students for Life be a good resource on that, and they also have resources for us to stand with women. How if I find myself in that situation where I have a pregnancy that I did not expect, that I did that it's not in the right circumstances as defined by whatever,
Yeah.
then how can I deal with this? Is there anybody who cares? Yes, there's a lot of people who care. We care about you, and we care about your child.
Yeah.
So we want to take care of that, and that's one of the facets of this, for sure. Is we're not coming from a stance of lack of compassion. Much the opposite. We have compassion, and we want life.
Yeah. And so I guess where I stand is like if people will suffer the consequence and there will succumb a consequence, well, let that be unto them. You know what I mean? That's kind of like where I'm headed to is.
Yeah, autonomy. You want some level of autonomy here, where this mother can choose
And I want
the
to
value.
Yeah.
This mother can choose autonomously and absolutely, because this might end the life of the child in her womb. You want this mother to have
and
the choice.
Do you think
the
if
freedom.
it becomes illegal, do you think that it'll actually stop, or do you think that people will go into dangerous avenues to complete it? Because there was a time where women.
Yeah, that's a huge myth. I think that myth has been debunked many times, but it's still a talking point of pro-abortionists. We can't get into the detail here, but if you really were to do, and by the way, that's why my shout out to Students for Life, because they do such a good job at that. If you're really interested in knowing what an abortion is and how dangerous it is, even in an abortion clinic, the data, the information's out there. This is a very dangerous procedure from the get-go. There are things in modern medicine today which made less dangerous for mothers who have gone through these violent procedures.
That's interesting because I've actually heard the opposite, that it's safer than pregnancy.
Oh my goodness, that's such a lie. That is a lie. There's just no way around it. This is not true. It is simply not true. Women are not dying in alleys, okay? They are just not. This is just not true. If abortion ends today, women's lives are going to continue to go. I think one thing that you do need to touch on is that if it becomes illegal, what is going to happen is in your conscience right now, we're gonna start the long road back to where pregnancy or conception of a life and sex are again connected. Because right now you live in a world where the abortion movement wants to disconnect those things, as if no, sex and conception, sex and having babies are disconnected realities.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either.
Well, but that's what abortion does. So if you don't agree with that, you're taking steps towards a absolute pro-life argument, because sex is always connected with conception. Don't tell me, Raj, that no, I just wanted to have sex with that girl, or the girl says, I just wanted to have sex with that boy. I didn't know this could happen. I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
That's like throwing a baseball at a window and saying, I did not sign up for that ball not bouncing off the window. and that's probably, but that would be one of the, look, if I'm going to play baseball right here in front of your driveway, there is a risk.
Yeah.
And I don't like using that word risk, but that's the idea, right? Now, the reason we're having this conversation in those terms, risk, broken window, is because if you don't have sex disconnected from conception, if they are always together, then the life in the mother's womb has become an inconvenient. Is that the kind of language we want to treat a member of our species with?
Well, we don't, but that's a reality, though.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
The fact that someone, a member of our species, is an inconvenient, does that justify killing that member of our species?
Yeah, I want to get to a point there, but I want to go back to your analogy. And I completely agree with that. I don't like that the fact people try to alleviate the instant gratification with not connecting it to the fact that a child might be bared. I still, and this might be very conservative of me, but like that's why I kind of like the creation of condoms and all this safe sex. It's like people are really trying to disconnect having children from sex.
Correct.
And so I've always said this. I've always said this. If you're not ready for kids, just don't have sex. And people are like, no, you're just over the top conservative. And
yeah, it's because there's the self needs sex, right? That's what Freud has taught people. By the way, Freud doesn't even, no one even in our, like no, you cannot find a psychologist out there today, a psychotherapist who's saying, oh, I'm a Freudian through and through. That's how I'm going to treat you. They don't do that. But Freud's idea has stayed. Freud's idea is that for you to be self-actualized, for you to be fulfilled as a human being, you need to have sex. So if I take sex away from your life, you're never going to be happy ever. Because life is about sex. That's what Freud taught. Well, our culture has bought into that a lot. And then someone has weaponized it, or rather politicized it later on. But that's the idea that you're dealing with. Do you really, like, is that really an essential part of being a human being? Like, if you don't have sex, if you cannot give room to that desire, that sexual desire, then you cannot be a fulfilled person. And that's part of this conversation as well. But so I need to start separating all the stigmas, all the inconveniences, all the commitments of sex, or anything that makes sex into a covenant relationship with someone else. I need to start taking those out, and abortion is a mechanism for that, because it creates a relationship, right? A third person, a third member of the species enters the room at conception.
Oh yeah.
Scientifically speaking, this is not the Bible language. This is just science. This is just, we know that at conception, if 100 years from now, I was left just with the DNA material, it would be a person. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It wouldn't. 100 years from now, I would look at whatever genetic material I have, and I would go, I wonder if this was a fetus. What do you guys think? No, it would be, all I would say is like, who was this? It was a member of our species. This was a human being that existed for one, like, it existed there. It had never existed before, and it will never exist again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's conception.
Yeah, people...
That's sperm meets egg, okay? And fecunds it and makes it a baby.
Yeah.
And it immediately is a member of it. That's scientific.
I heard this debate where people weren't calling it fetus. They were calling it's a clump of cells, you know? And I don't agree
I'm
with
a clump
that.
of cells.
Yeah,
You're a clump of
exactly, 100%, right? So that was the debaters' argument. I'm a clump of cells.
That's like saying, he's just a teenager. It's a stage of my life.
Yeah.
That's who I am. At one point, I was a fetus.
Yeah.
I was a sperm and an egg that was fertilized.
Yeah.
That it became alive. It was me. And this is science. If I were to then analyze that scientifically and say, what is this? The conclusion scientifically would be, it's a member of our species.
Yeah.
It's a self-directing life. And there is an organ in the woman's body whose purpose is to house that life
Yeah.
for that time. That's the whole purpose of a womb.
Yeah. I want to go back because I just want to finish my thought on the whole sex related to having kids. Somebody asked me on another podcast I was on, not mine, it's another podcast.
Yeah.
What do you think men should have a say in abortion?
Yeah.
And my answer was, of course, but you have to be careful because if you put yourself in a situations, your words are not even going to matter. And this is what I mean. For anybody having one night hookups or a fling or whatnot, and you're having sex without the thought of having a child, and it happens, right? She gets knocked up and then she comes to you and she says, I'm gonna abort it. Well, guess what? You can argue as much as you want, but the consequence of you not having safe sex or planned sex later on in the future with something meaningful with the plan of having children, well, guess what? You can cry about it, you can moan about it, but at the end of the day, your word is probably not going to have much value to that girl that you had a one night stand with or whatnot. So I always say position yourself in a place where your words are going to matter and your opinions are going to matter. Or I would even say wait till marriage to where you're ready to have kids and to where that's out of the question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Love this woman.
Exactly. Love the woman because...
Love this child.
Exactly.
Be a man.
Yeah. And if you don't want to be put in a position where your words don't matter, don't put yourself there.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of truth in that. And then there's the next level, right? There's the next level. Do I, as a man in general, have a say over someone else's baby?
That's important to talk about.
Yeah. So I don't know.
But that kind of ties into what I opened the podcast with. I think it very well does.
Yeah, and I think so. As disclosure, right? I talked to you about this earlier. At one point in my life, even as a Christian, I grew up in a church from the age 2 onwards. Mm-hmm. I became convinced of my faith in Christianity when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
But at age 21, 22, here I was, still asking that question that you just asked, which is this. As a matter of public policy, like, can a man like me go for making it illegal for my neighbor, right?
Yeah.
And what happened during that time of my life is that my mind did change on that. Mm-hmm. That, yes, I should go for making it illegal for everyone. And the reason for that as a man is because just intuitively, we do know, especially as men, that we cannot have babies. You and I cannot have a baby. It's controversial, right, today? But yeah. Babylon B. If Babylon B just posted, if you know the Babylon B just posted a headline saying that Mattel is gonna come with pregnant Ken.
They want to change Mother's Day to
Pregnant Person's Day,
Birth Giver Day.
What is it?
Birth Giver Day,
okay.
because trans men can have babies too. Italo.
So, anyways, different podcast, right? but intuitively know that. And there is, if you care about civilization, if you care about society, if you care about your neighbor, if you care about your city, if you care about building a better world, then you're going to protect all life. And the between a man and a woman who is stereotypically, and I own that, right? There's a stereotype here. Stereotypically, who is more equipped to defend someone who is defenseless? Is it a man or a woman? It is going to be a man. So stereotypically...
You're so sexist.
Oh, look I'm even using the word, right? Stereotypically, men are stronger than women.
Yeah.
Now, Rogelio, you and I have found some women out there who are stronger than some men, correct? But stereotypically, the rule, almost without exception, is the men were designed to take on this job.
Yeah.
I still open jars in my house. And my wife is no weakling.
Yeah.
Okay?
The strongest woman would be stronger than some men, but the strongest man would destroy a woman.
We know the numbers, right?
Yes.
You and I have
We talked about it in
tried to
another
do a
podcast.
podcast on that. Remember that? We tried to do a
podcast.
podcast on that, but we know the numbers for this.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I don't.
So that speaks to that question. Do I then have a moral obligation to make this a matter of public policy and defend the defenseless? Like to go and say, no, do not go to that place. Abortion should be illegal for everyone.
So just to be clear, what you're doing right now is you're making a case that what you're trying to do is to defend people that don't
Who are defenseless.
Don't have a voice in that.
Yeah, and the baby is the main one.
Okay.
And that's the fundamental part of this. The defenseless one is the one that needs a voice. That baby can't speak, cannot wave a flag. And if that person is a member of our species, then who is going to defend that person? Who's got the moxie to do that, the spine, to go in and enter that dark place where that life is being snuffed out? And I keep saying that because abortion is violent.
Oh, yeah.
It's extremely violent.
I don't know if I can say this on YouTube, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This notion that abortion is a murder is false.
You just went there.
Okay. I just went there. I don't care if it gets flagged down, but it is. We can't beat around that bush, and we'll get into that later. But it's because you're kind of dancing around it.
And I want because I have compassion. I want to I know people who have committed this, and I want to offer them. There is hope. There is forgiveness here. There is the hope of the gospel. This is why Jesus came to die, so that any sin that is repented of can be forgiven.
I saw this ridiculous post. I screenshot it and I forgot to send it to you last week. Steven Crowder tweets out, "Abortion is murder. Changed my mind." And this girl responded, "So God can kill his son, but I can't." Wow.
That just shows a misunderstanding of Christianity and who God is and what is happening at the cross. It shows a misunderstanding of Christianity.
Yeah, obviously she's not well read on that.
Well, she just
or maybe her emotions just took over or whatever.
I do think that's why it's important to use that construction of words. This would be an abortionist, right? It's someone who's like, I'm bent to doing this.
Yeah.
I'm bent to killing these children, these babies.
Yeah. So I'm glad you made a case on why you should make this fight. Is basically what you did. I'm
to some extent, and I guess the fundamental piece of that would be who decides what a life is. This is it. This is the fundamental piece. Who decides what the value of a life is? I mean, can a mother decide? Because that's the argument of the pro-abortionist movement. When it has become a baby? When I decide it is a baby.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But that's the argument. That is one of the main arguments that is spout out all the time, and it is so it falls apart so quickly that they have actually gone away from that. A lot of pro-abortionists have gone away from that argument to say, who cares if it is a baby? I still have the right to kill that child. If that's the world we live in, the man need to step in, because that was also what happened during slavery. It's the same.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
Someone decided that a life was worth 3/5 of a life. This is exactly someone is deciding that life, that member of the human species in the womb is not worth 5/5. It's worth only 3/5.
Yeah.
Therefore, I can own it. I can kill it. It's mine. It's my property. Guys, this is the same argument. So you can't hold those two at the same time in the same relationship. Say, I am against slavery, chattel slavery, and I am pro-abortion. Well, if that's the case, and a woman can do whatever the hell she wants with her body by killing that baby because she has denied that is a different body inside of her, then, shoot, the slave owner can do whatever the hell he wants with the slave. That's his thing. That's his thing, is to own slaves. But, in one case you say, but then I can't have sex because I'll get pregnant. Well, if he gives up chattel slavery, he's going to lose his business. Let's just keep going.
Yeah.
It's the same argument. So the only way to get away from both of these hideous things is to say, no. All human life is equally valuable, independent of the age of development, of its ability to care for itself, of the location. Location. That's all we're talking about.
Yeah. Another argument that's linked up with that the pro-choicers would make is, why is the fetus life more important than mine? Right?
It isn't. That's the point. No one's making that point. No one is making that point. No pro-life ever makes that point. That the life of the baby is more important than the life of the mother. Let's just get that out of the way. That's ridiculous. The argument is the value of the baby is equally as important as your life. And the purpose of your womb is to care for that life. Yeah. Without your womb, without your participation in this, which, by the way, that's why it should be unthinkable. It should be unthinkable. You don't have to be a Christian to believe this. If you are an evolutionist, atheist, here is an argument for women's here's an argument against abortion. Human species has evolved so that we became the top of the chain because the womb is for this. If you go against nature on this, you will destroy your species. Of course, I wouldn't make that argument, but I'm just saying that even if you're an atheist, you look out there in nature and at science, and you go, oh, the design of this womb is for this. This is all this does. I mean, it does other biochemical and physiological things, but the main purpose of all of that is to prepare every month to receive a life. That's it. That's what he does every month. The whole cycle is, what are we going to do this month? Organs of the human anatomy? We're going to prepare to receive a life. That's what he does every month. So, but that's it. The fundamental argument is every life is equally valuable. That's what you want. You want your life to be as valuable as my life, to be as valuable as the rich guy, the poor guy, the black guy, the Brazilian guy, the Indian guy, the Native American guy, the Native Brazilian guy, the Muslim guy. All lives are equally valuable. And the baby's life is that. That's it. The mother's life is as important as the baby's.
That's very important to state.
Yeah, and the point is, we wanna end suffering, because there's suffering here.
Yeah.
Of course, no one is denying. Okay, no one denies there's like, is having a baby gonna involve suffering? Oh yeah. Do we want to make that suffering bearable? We do. We want to dump money in it. We want to support it. We want to give the community support, the financial support, the emotional support, okay, the medical support, all the support, because we want to make the suffering bearable.
Yeah.
But do we want to kill the sufferer? No. You don't end suffering by killing the sufferer.
That's the extremist of. It's like, well, I don't want the baby to suffer. It's like, well, you're doing the extreme.
Kill it.
Yeah, that's the extreme thing of suffering.
Yeah, no. Let's end suffering, not killing. Let's not kill sufferers. Let's end suffering.
Yeah.
Let's go that way.
Yeah. So, where that conversation, where that foundation that you just placed, where it started, was that the notion of why you would even have a voice, or why you would even make a point in that.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to that because I received a message saying, did I state that already? The white male, the comment, or was that
one of the
air?
comments. I don't remember, but I think you did say that.
Yeah, well, yeah,
one of the comments was that why does a 30-year-old white male thinks that he can have a say in this?
Which is a poor argument, and we'll get into that maybe later. That's
the question, right?
That's not very important, but I don't buy this notion where people have to go through something in order to have a say in it. It's like, well, you can't have children, so you shouldn't have a say in it. I don't buy that notion. It's like, do we know that murder's bad? I don't need to be a murderer to know that murder's bad.
Or to have survived one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To have survived an attempt murder is like, oh, I know it's bad. Guy tried to murder me.
So what we're saying is that, well, people that, so I need to rape someone in order to know that rape is bad, or I need to be a victim
Or
of,
to help someone, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that is an appalling thing to say, is like, well, you need to go through it in order to, like, no, buddy, like that's not the way it is. It's you can know and you can decide what is good and what is bad. So that's the way I combat that argument, is that I need to go through it. It's like, no,
we have lots of compassion for this, but not just for the mother, but also for the child. That's the whole point, you know. He or she is a member of our species.
And that comment was partly racist too. It's like, okay, so it can't be a white 30-year-old male. Can it be a black 30-year-old male?
Yeah,
can it
be
like a Mexican 30-year-old male?
Yeah, can
like,
it be a
what can
Central
it be?
American guy?
Yeah,
can it be a Southeast Asia guy?
What's your agenda here?
Yeah.
Like, you're against white power?
Yeah.
Like,
what else do I need to have on my intersectionality card, you know?
what are some prerequisites?
Yeah. Does he have to be a transgender woman? Does he have to be you know? Yeah. It's an ad nauseum. But anyways, yeah, I think that we have the warrant. We have the warrant as pro-lifers from science and from nature to make abortion illegal.
Yeah.
Illegal. And you know, I'm a pastor, so it's undeniable. Of course, I don't separate. You know, by the way, I do think that at times, as a pastor, concerns me. Christians who try to separate their lives, as if I have this religious life which is private, and I have this secular life. I have this public life which I need to make secular arguments for. I don't play that game. You know, so I'm not a secularist. I don't need to make secular arguments. But the Christian worldview, the biblical worldview, is this: that nature is as if it were a book that God wrote. Nature is revelation. Nature reveals some things to you that God wants you to know. Right? For example, this is a good example, and it's important for this conversation. God has revealed to me something in nature, Rogelio. I know God has spoken to me about this very clearly. Okay? God has told me that you are a man.
How dare you?
And here's how he's done this. He has shown me your male body. Okay? It is not as if your soul is sexless. Your soul is not genderless. And then God gives you a male or female body. This is not what the biblical worldview is. I know you are a man. Your soul is a male soul. And the way God has revealed that to you and to me and to your wife, she knows that too, is by giving you a male body. Both body and soul, you are male. That's nature is revelation. Nature is revelation. Okay? So when you look at nature as a book and the Bible as another book, those books, they don't compete. They don't compete with one another. They always agree with one another. It is because of something that happened in nature, as it's fallen and sinful, that God has said, oh, I'm going to give you a book that is going to help you understand nature better.
I agree with that. I've said that multiple times on the podcast. I believe that the Bible and the secular world is transparent. Like, you can put the Bible over and you can see through it. It's like it's not separated.
They're not separated. But Christians have been trying to separate those two books, right? As if I cannot make a religious argument out there.
Yeah.
I cannot make a Bible argument out in the secular world. No, I can absolutely make that argument. I can say something like this. It's self-evident. It is intuitively we know that human life is valuable, eternally valuable, more valuable, okay? Because there's lots of people trying to argue that it isn't. We're just a virus in the world, okay? We're just a virus. It'd be better if there never were human beings here. But we intuitively know that just can't be true. There is no other species like us.
Yeah.
And I mean like us, like moral like us, right? So human life is there anything out there that tells me why this is so? Why is it that I intuitively understand these facts of nature? Well, the Bible says, yeah, because God made you in his image. And that's what I would say, like, man, both nature and the Bible tell us the same thing, that a human life begins at conception. That God is the one who's creating this life in the womb. And to snuff it out on a search and destroy mission, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And that has a category in the Bible for which the government has given by God power to intervene.
Okay, great segue into what I want to get to. So you're talking about the individual and why we should make a stand. Hey guys, I want to tell you all about my good friends at Meta Training. As you all know, I am a huge fitness fanatic, but there has been one critical element that has been missing from my fitness journey. It is commonly overlooked and extremely underrated, and that is programming. Listen, if you're just starting off, I understand that it can be very hard, and we do want to go on YouTube. We want to check out all these influencers, but listen, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and that is exactly why you need a program, and that's exactly what Meta Training does. They provide a program depending on your goals, whether it's to build strength, gain muscle, whether it's to lose body fat, to increase endurance. Meta Training has multiple trainers to target whichever part of your fitness journey that you want to attack. Also, they have some great apparel. They hooked me up with this, I think it's called like the oversized tee, right? So it's like it's kind of like a pump cover. So they hit me up and they met me up at the gym and they're like, listen, we want you to represent. So that proves to me that Meta Training supports the podcast. Therefore, The podcast supports Meta Training. You can find them on Instagram, and their handle is training.meta, and they also have a website. So if you can't necessarily get their program, I do recommend checking them out on Instagram and maybe buying some of their apparel. It is slick, it's clean, and I'm telling you, I'm going to wear it on my next gym sesh. So thank you all. Go check out Training Meta Training. Thank you. Bye-bye. How much do you think that the government should have power over us? Because that's also a thin line too, and that's a point of contention too. Because so we allow the government to decide whether we can have abortions and we can't. But there's also a side to that where how much can we allow the government to control us, and not it become this massive thing like that controls every single move that we do, because that's also another argument that can be made.
Yeah, sure. I think the American Constitution, the United States Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, those enshrined documents, they are extremely important for this conversation. A lot of us have lost touch with them, that we don't understand them. The cultural atmosphere of our time is anti-American Constitution, okay? It wants to upend, destroy, get rid of the American Constitution in its original form. And the liberties that we enjoy today, they are enshrined there. Without that document, all those liberties would go away.
100% agree.
Okay? Because as soon as the government decides that there are lives that are not worthy of life, what have we done? We have opened the road to the loss of liberty, not to the gaining of liberty. Okay? That is what the government has done with abortion. And that's what the government had done previously. The government previously, and wrongly so, had decided that a black person's life was worth only 3/5 of a whole life. The government did that. Is that what we want? Because that's what you're arguing for. You're saying the government must give me the freedom to have a slave. And the government said, I will give you that freedom. So what we're talking about here is God created the government. Government is a creation of God. God created the government to protect your liberty. Okay? To protect your liberty. And the Bill of Rights makes that very clear. And that's what the Bill of Rights is getting at. That God has given you some rights that are yours. And no government shall infringe upon them. As a matter of fact, no person shall infringe upon them. Those freedoms are so important that the government was given by God the sword. The power, we call it the power of the sword. Mm-hmm. That's why when you go to a courtroom, you'll find Lady Justice there. Lady Justice, okay? And it's a very symbolic statue. But in one of her hands, she bears the sword. The sword is down, usually. Mm-hmm. Why? Because I have the scale on the other hand. It is this scale that's going to tell me if I'm going to lift the sword. And that's the government's role that God has given to the government. Well, if there ever was a time for the government to lift its sword, is to protect the liberty of life, the right to life of that member of our species, independent of age, location, okay? And then that's why we've spoken about this relationship of mother and child. Nature reveals to us that there exists a relationship here because sex cannot be disconnected from a relationship. Sex is not this thing that you just do so you can be happy. No, you cannot disconnect sex from procreation. If you keep that in your mind, then you're going to do well because it's going to help you to protect life. So the government steps in, just like it steps in today, to hold parents accountable to some of their duties as parents. Yeah. That is freedom. That's freedom. That's choice. For who? For the downtrodden, for the disenfranchised, for the weak, for the one who has no voice? Do you not care about the people who are losing their liberties? The government must step in.
Okay, so I see what you're saying. You're saying that okay, the government can't go too far, right? But what you're saying, if there is a point
That's
where
why we have the Bill of Rights.
you're saying that if there's ever a time they need to step in, it's to protect life.
Oh, yeah. They have the sword to protect life. They have the sword so that you and I can do this podcast. That's why they have the sword. Because if someone comes in here and tries to infringe upon our right, who gave us that right? God. By the way, that's how the Constitution talks about this.
Yeah.
That this is a God-given right. God gave me this right, this liberty to say these things here and to post them, on YouTube and Spotify and Instagram and whatever else you use, Raj. God has given me that right. If God has given me the right, if someone tries to infringe upon that right, I need protection. Who's going to protect me? God has given the sword to the civil authority, to the civil magistrate. Okay? But what that also means then, did God give them the right to make medical decisions for me? No, the government has no authority to make medical decisions for me. Did God give the civil magistrate the authority to teach my children? No. God did not give them that authority. Did God give the civil magistrate the authority to establish a religion? No. No, the civil magistrate will protect my freedom to exercise religion. Okay? Now, I have some views on that we don't want to get into this podcast. But yeah, so God absolutely does give the government authority, and nature reveals that to you. That no, you want someone, you want an authority that can come in, step in, and protect you.
Okay.
And protect your liberty. This is what we're talking about.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay, I agree with that. So I would like to continue on where we're headed. And so let's say the government makes it illegal.
Yeah.
There is some consequences to if it happens anyways, somebody breaks the law.
Yeah.
Has an abortion. I think it's something like $100,000 or jail time or something like that.
Yeah, I don't, I know that Texas has a law. I think that's what's going to happen with the overturn of Roe versus Wade, is that states that now have legislatures that can make it criminal to have an abortion in their state, they're going to move to do that, and they're going to criminalize it in different ways. So I don't know.
Oh, so we don't know. It's going to go from state to state, right?
Yeah.
That's right. They're leaving it up to the state.
So Texas right now, I can sue someone in a civil court for $10,000 for committing an abortion.
So what do you think the consequence should be?
Well, that's an interesting question, Rogelio. I think that eventually, so I want abortion to be illegal, but I also want it to be, stomach twisting. Like, I want to make you sick to your stomach as well, to think like this is what an abortion is. I want mothers who think about that to bear the weight of what that is, and to repent of that, to turn from that, and to start thinking about this in a different way. And it is when that becomes the case, okay? When it's both illegal and unthinkable, I see an environment in our culture. We have to create a culture. Now, we've been on Roe versus Wade 50 years, okay? And we need to see how the government is willing to prosecute those who engage on these violent acts, which are abortions. And I'm shying away from saying, from making a public policy here on the podcast. I do have interest in public policy, though.
Yeah.
I think it is my job as a pastor to inform that conversation. Okay? I do think that if I say something here, I would have to qualify it too much, because it needs some qualifications. It needs, you need to make some distinctions. But I know enough to say this: yes, the public policy should have with it some type of criminal charges.
Of course. I mean, if it doesn't, then
You need to be charged criminally
Mm-hmm.
for this. And I'm thinking about people like Kermit Gosnell, which you don't even know that case, right? Oh, if you look at that case, you're going to be like, absolutely, this man needs to be charged criminally to the highest extent
Mm-hmm.
of the law. But the reason I have these things in mind, and I don't know how many of your listeners know this, Roe versus Wade, and there's another case that went along with it. They make abortion legal at any stage of the pregnancy.
Yeah.
Okay? So there's a lot of late-term abortionists out there. And I can't even describe what a late-term abortion is, because it's sickening.
Mm-hmm.
But it is murder. Because it goes exactly with that idea. What's the difference between a human life and a non-human life? What's the difference in value of this person? It's like 30 minutes. It's the location. It's just the location. Yeah. It's a few inches. Few inches this way, human. Few inches this way.
A step on the other side of the border.
A step on the other side of the border.
Yeah.
That is a good. And so the same people, you cannot be a person who says, those people on that side of the border, because they are born, they are more valuable than whatever this is in the womb. When nature, science is telling you, like, no, that is a human person.
Yeah.
He has fingerprints, has a heartbeat, he has all the entrapments, and there's a lot of scientific discussions of it, but the people who still argue that this is not a human person are denying science. They're denying it. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's other things. A doctor who engages himself in abortion, he has broken his his oath. He's broken his do no harm oath. Right? That is the oath of doctors. That's why there's so few doctors who want to engage in this violent act.
I do want to talk about that. So in a case where it actually stays legal, right? Is there is there a law where doctors can refuse?
Oh yeah, that become immediate. Like if it's illegal, I don't have to ever.
No, yeah, but if it remains legal.
Oh, if it remains legal,
are doctors protected?
I don't know the ins and outs of some of those laws, but
I think that needs to be.
A hospital is not a place for abortion, so that's the thing.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah, no. When you go to a hospital, you go to. There's two. That is very important. If a pregnant woman, 13 weeks pregnancy, okay, Rogelio, walks into a hospital, there's two patients. Mm-hmm. If at that same day she walks into an abortion clinic, there's one patient. You see the difference?
I get you.
One place, they're like, there's 2 lives to save here.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 lives to save. We're going to try to save 2 lives.
Yeah.
Goes into one place, there is 1 life here. That is entirely subjective. No one wants to live in a world like this. That is a cruel world. This is a world where you are going to very quickly lose all your liberties. Because the job of the government is to protect your liberty. Like that is how, for instance, the Second Amendment works.
Yeah.
The Second Amendment of the Constitution. If someone gets into my house and steal my guns, the government steps in and protects me from that.
That's important to talk about. I think we need to talk about. I don't think that law should be subjective. I think that law needs to be objective.
You mean like the abortion law?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
100%. Because if I agree with you, if you can take a step on another state and the life that's in a woman's body values more than the next step, I think that's completely wrong. And going from building to building, it's too much. But I think that about a lot of things too. There's like this whole gender thing and everything like that. If people can decide whatever is the case, it's just
against nature.
It's too confusing.
Against reason, against nature.
And that's where we're at right now. Yeah. It is people can decide whatever they want, and so it's kind of hard to know. It's hard for people to predict other people, and it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
Humans are a lot more alike than they are different, and I don't think people like that.
Yeah.
And men and women too.
I agree with you.
Men,
Much more alike than they're different.
yeah, men and women are a lot more alike than they are different. But yet we're here stuck arguing about how different we are. It's like, no, calm down. We're alike a lot. Like 60% of us is alike, but we do have some distinct differences, and that's okay. But people want to highlight it's probably more than 60%. It was just threw a number out there.
Yeah, it's
There's
not
an actual
60%. Yeah,
there's an actual
a lot more. Please.
There's an actual number out there, and I forgot it. Jordan Peterson talks about it, but 100%. It's I believe that if there's anything, because there are some things that are subjective, but if there's ever going to be something that's objective, and I completely agree with, it has to be law. If it's gonna, I think that it has to go through all the states.
No, yeah, I think that there is public policy that will definitely discourage abortion, and I do think that there should be criminal charges associated with it. Mm-hmm. At times, I think that public policy needs to be discussed because it is going to involve criminal courts, eventually in some of these states. Mm. But yeah, as a matter of public policy, we need to prosecute some of those cases, and of course that's going to discourage abortions more and more. But yeah, we need to make it illegal because the life in the womb is as valuable as the life of the mother, valuable as the life of the mother, and she, because we're connecting sex and procreation again, then she does have a natural responsibility to that body inside of her womb. That's what the womb is for. If the baby was growing in her kidneys, you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That'd kill her. Then we want to save both lives, but we probably wouldn't be able to. But because that's not what the kidney is for. You see that? Mm-hmm. It's growing in her womb. So we have a duty, as the mother has that duty, and society has the duty to protect that life.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about government and it being objective or subjective. Let's talk about the women who have suffered some type of abuse. Let's talk about rape. Women have been raped. I don't know if
you're saying
this
you're
podcast
saying like
is probably going to be taken down.
You're saying there's no. This is common conversation about abortion.
I don't know.
You're saying that if there's a pregnancy that comes from a rape, mm-hmm. or even an incestual, sexual abuse, mm-hmm. which is what happens. In that case, then should we, in that case, then allow for an abortion, right?
Well, this kind of goes into the objective and subjective conversation too.
So what that argument does is this. Sometimes the father commits a crime, mm-hmm. that is so heinous that his child must die. Do you believe that? I mean, that's the argument. That's what it ends up in. It ends up in like sometimes the sin or the crime of the father is such that we must punish the child. Of course, the father must be punished, but also the child. Mm. That's what would be happening when you commit an abortion in a case of rape or incest.
Yeah, I guess what the pro-choices would argue is like, well, you're leaving the woman out of that equation.
Yeah, the pro-abortion would think about the woman. And what we want to do is to validate that this is a extremely bad situation that you find yourself. You are a victim of something heinous here. And we want to stand with you full on. You do not have to raise this child, by the way. And a lot of people don't know that that there's laws in the books that you can give up your child without any questions asked when the child is born for adoption. There is a line. There's an endless line of people in America waiting for newborn babies to adopt. Mm-hmm. It's an endless line. People wanting to adopt children. You do not have to raise this child, but you do need to carry it to term. And you will carry it to term because this is a human life, and it is not justice. This is not justice to punish this child with a capital punishment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because his father, has committed a crime. We cannot stand for that. We don't stand for that. We don't want that. The child will pay for his or her own crimes.
Yeah. To be clear, you're not promoting giving away your child. You're just saying
no,
that
but I'm
that's an
saying
option.
that it is an option.
Yeah.
And in that case, I think in the case of rape or incest, I think it's probably, depending on the situation here, is going to be the way to go. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying you can do this. Mm-hmm. There is no command in Scripture that would prohibit that. Yeah. Okay, and I think that's part of the situation as well. We need to be clear, especially as the church, right? I need to be clear to people like, no, this was not a sin.
Yeah.
To do this.
It also opens up a lot of doors, because let's say it's not going to happen, but let's just say, okay, it's illegal, but it's legal for those who get raped or incest. People are going to start lying, first of all. That'll be something. But it opens doors. It's like a crack, right? And so
because you're saying it's that fundamental argument. Value is equally life is equally valuable, except in cases of so we come into like, oh, you're just a bastard child. Mm-hmm. Your life is not as valuable as mine. That's what we get into.
Well, something that ties into it, and this might be a little bit touchy, and I'm going to be very sensitive with this, but there was also somebody that messaged me that was saying, well, what about if the child's going to have some type of
disability?
Yes. Down syndrome and whatnot, and
sure.
The parent doesn't want to deal with that. I'm going to be sensitive to that, because it's hard to even receive news that is even the case, mm-hmm. that your child is going to be hindered in some way, whether it be cognitively or physically, whatever it is. But I still don't think that just to be clear, I know I haven't made this clear. I know in the beginning I said I was pro-choice, by definition. That's just, I only say that because I think that I think I stand where the pro-choicers think I'm pro-life and the pro-lifers think I'm pro-choice. You
have like a medium. You're like, you got kind of a mediating position where I think there are some cases.
Yes. Okay. And so just to be very clear, in my life, there will not be any abortions. Mm-hmm. I position myself in a case where I know I want kids, I know my wife wants kids, and if we receive kids, it's a blessing.
Yeah, you're saying that there is, so I do have a situation. You're saying that there are circumstances in your mind that you can see why someone would say, I want to abort this baby.
And the only case for me is, and we already covered it, is that I don't know how I feel about the government having a hand in my decisions and how much of that. But you mm-hmm. covered it very well.
Yeah, I think that even if you go that route, you quickly realize that you don't really live that way.
Which I don't.
And life that way would only mean less liberty, not more liberty. That needs to be made crystal clear. If you allow the government to say there is no such thing as marriage between a man and a woman. Some lives are more valuable than others, the government said. You just lost a lot of liberty. Yeah. You didn't gain any more liberty. You lost a lot.
100%.
You're paving the way to tyranny.
Yeah, 100%, because law, I guess in a figuratively speaking way, is a set of rules, right? And so rules allow liberty.
Correct.
People think that that's not the case. People see a set of rules.
Yeah, and I would say laws allow liberty. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is why there needs to be debate, and why law always needs to be handled with, right? as we progress.
And I want to call the attention of your listeners to the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, mm-hmm. preceded by the Federalist Papers, and the Bill of Rights. If you are in possession of those 3 documents plus the Federalist Papers, you are well served with the rationale for what we're talking about. There has not been in history a country with these laws.
Yeah.
This is why these laws exist. They follow the common law tradition, and especially the Bill of Rights. If you understand it, it gives you it gives you the texture. It gives you that's the atmosphere for liberty. And without that, without having a government which will protect my rights, you will eventually have no rights. That's just, you will lose all of your liberty.
100%. Yeah.
That's how it works.
There's a misconception there. People think that a set of rules is meant to take away your liberty.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. You say, like in the West now, they are not prosecuting theft or what is it? They're not prosecuting. Shoplifting. They're not prosecuting shoplifting to a certain amount.
It's like $1,000.
Yeah. So what has happened to the population? They lost a lot of liberty. Stores are leaving. They can't go in peace to the store. The stuff is not on the shelves. They lost liberty.
100%.
All because the government didn't say you cannot steal, not even $1.
Yeah.
You shall not steal. I'm going to protect your right, God-given right to have private property.
100%.
And the Bill of Rights talks about that. The Bill of Rights protect those rights.
I love this analogy. It's a metaphor where Jordan Peterson says, let's play a game. Right? And he says, let's play a game. So, Italo, you go first.
Okay. Immediately, right? It's like, what is the object of this game?
Exactly.
How do I win?
Yeah, so we don't get to have fun until we set rules. I bring a chessboard out. Oh, we know the rules now. Now it's fun. We have boundaries. We have borders. We have rules, and we know the fundamentals of this game. Yeah. Now the fun begins.
In a society who is killing its babies in the womb, okay? It's like a society that jumped out of a plane for a skydiving event without a parachute. Okay, a society that is killing a society who is killing its babies in the womb. Okay, it's like someone who wanted to go skydiving. Okay, they want to go skydiving. Skydiving is awesome, right? And someone came and said, look, you need to put this parachute on. And the person said, I really don't want anything to restrain me. I want total freedom while I'm out there. Because when I put that parachute on, that's heavy. I got a harness. It is catching on my crotch. Yeah. It's touching private places, and it's just too uncomfortable. I want to just free fall. And then they jump out of the plane. But I got to tell you, there's going to come a certain altitude where they're going to lose complete liberty because gravity is going to take over.
Yeah.
Gravity is going to take over, and there is this undeniable, inevitable end here. Mm-hmm. You're going to hit Earth, and Earth is going to hit you just as hard as you're hitting it, and you are going to die.
Yeah.
So a society that has removed those restraints on things that are objectively wrong, that society is on its way to its demise. Okay,
I agree.
Those would be the analogies. So on the cases of rape and incest, the government comes in and says, no, it is illegal to take a human life in this way. Mm-hmm. This child is not guilty of the rape. It goes back, and then when it comes to mental disabilities, it's the same exact fundamental argument, except that now we're talking about what exactly is a human life. Then, what makes someone a human? Is it my ability to have cognitive abilities? Is that so? When I'm in a coma, just kill me. If I'm not good with math, then kill me.
Low IQ.
When I'm suffering, is my life not worth living? So I'm subjectively deciding. The government is deciding that for me. The government is deciding for me, a life that is cognitively impaired is not worth living. So the government is now deciding how much suffering you can have in your life.
Then we just start wiping out anybody like above 80 years old. It's like
Correct. Especially if the government is paying for it.
Yeah.
If the government is paying for that care, get out. If the government is paying to care for your health, then the government gets to decide how much suffering you can have in your life. How much is life worth living? And the government will decide your life is not worth living. And that's what happens in China, right? That's what happens in China. Everyone out there, if you think China is a good thing, look, it is not. China has, you cannot have, I don't know how many children they are now, but for a long time, they stopped this because they saw that they were just destroying themselves. But you could only have one child, right? It's the one-child policy. Everything else is an abortion. There's been many cases of children who are abandoned so that no one claims them as children. I mean, China is a big mess. But that's what happens. And the government comes and says some lives are more valuable than others. The government, and the government starts to pay for the health care. The government is also starts saying things like this: you cannot have any more babies. You want 6 babies? Too bad. You can't. I'm the one paying for it.
Yep.
Because the government decides the value of life. Are you sick in the hospital? Oh, you're cognitively impaired now. You're just like those babies who have some type of disease in the womb. We're going to kill you.
You're like those clump of cells.
You're like those clump of cells who are cognitively impaired. You see what I'm saying?
What you're saying
You're
is
losing all liberty if the government does not fundamentally and absolutely defends your God-given right to life.
Yep.
Your God-given right to life. That's what the government exists for.
What you're saying is that it's a slippery slope.
It is absolutely a slippery slope because you lose the foundational argument. Like you lose the foundation of the whole building. The foundation of this building that we're trying to build is all life is equally valuable.
And the moment that we say, nope, there's a little crack, and then
it's gone. No, it's just gone.
And then we start to kill 80-year-olds
Yeah, the moment you say, no, some lives are worth 3/5.
Yeah.
And some lives are worth 5/5. The moment you say that, what you did was you realized that your foundation was built with sand. You just packed some sand real tight in there. It wasn't a rock. It wasn't concrete. It wasn't a slab with rebar holding it together, pressured in there. It was just some sand packed in. The first water that came in washed it out, and your whole house just falls apart.
So this has been embedded over in our heads for about 50 years, you said, and it's been a part of culture.
Yeah, we're going to be the first generation, right, post Roe versus Wade.
So what I'm trying to get to is how long do you think things will start to go back, or to where it's normal that abortion is illegal? Because let's talk about it. Because what we've kind of painted out here was we saw slaves as 3/5, and now we're at a point where it's like, okay, they're 5/5, but now we're kind of going backwards, right? We're in the
we went back. We went at least on this other area.
Yes,
we've said no.
Children.
Some people are less valuable.
Yeah, exactly. And so even the slaves, I don't know if you heard this story where the maker of the cotton gin passes away and gives his rights to a slave. And he's been so conditioned that once he takes on everything, all the slaves say, we're free. And he's like, hold on. No. We have some work to do.
I own you.
Yeah, I own you. And
yeah, there was lots of black men who had slaves.
You know what slaves. I mean? And so what I mean, so they were conditioned, that was a culture. How long do you think that it'll take for people to say, hey, abortion?
Yeah, that was George Orwell, right, on the Animal Farm. I don't know if you read George Orwell, Animal Farm. Animal Farm, there's this line. It's a famous line from the book. It's like, we're all equal. but some of us are more equal than others. So yeah, but yeah, how long do you think it's gonna take for us to get
be
back
conditioned and
to
that
get
that'd
back
be the
to
culture.
the point where the atmosphere is like, oh, we don't do this here. Like abortion is illegal and unthinkable, right? That's what you're saying. Like slavery, like chattel slavery. That's the question.
Yes, it's because I think it's hard to. I don't think abortion's gonna completely leave. I think people will.
Oh no, yeah, that's
they'll
like
travel to
we,
other countries.
we
Slaves
have,
are still a thing today.
Yeah, people go to jail for theft, and we still have theft.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't.
Okay. Yeah.
You
Fair.
don't criminalize things
And then
because you think, we're gonna achieve utopia.
yeah.
We're gonna achieve utopia here. No, we're not looking for utopia. We're looking. Let's take this step. We know for sure that this is the next step to make it illegal.
You sound very confident that it's going
and
to
unthinkable. Yeah, I would be shocked at this point if it's not overturned.
be really.
I would be shocked.
Why do you say that? I'm not following the case too well, so maybe you can
Because
enlighten me.
this is a historical moment. I think that the judges who are voting for understand what they're doing. I think that some of the judges are old enough where they're like, we really don't, like, we're going to go through with this. You're not going to bully us. You know, you have Thomas Clarence,
We've
you have
been bullied
Samuel
too long
Alito,
already.
and then you have Amy Coney Barrett, who understands the fundamentals of this. I think that the opinion piece was constitutional enough that all these 5 judges know that what they're doing is right. I think that if I would be shocked in the sense that if this doesn't go through, because this has not been overturned yet, but if this doesn't go through, it will just be a very dark period of our history. I think that this could further polarize our society. Because we do have cities, even, I don't know if you saw this, Edinburgh, Texas is trying to become, or has become, a sanctuary city for babies. Like, you cannot, it's a city ordinance that you cannot commit an abortion there. By the way, I wanted that to be the case with Harlingen. I think every town that's conservative should do that. But Harlingen has just elected someone who, I can't say that. I can't say that about the new elected mayor of Harlingen because I'm not sure. But I would imagine that she is pro-choice based on some other political affinities that she has. But anyway, so the idea is I would be shocked. This is a historical moment, but I'm also an optimist, right? I am. I'm an optimist on what I think is happening in the world. I don't think the world is going from bad to worse. I think the world goes from bad to a little better. Then we see some kind of dip because things seem to be getting worse, and then we get better.
I think we see it in history too. Like, there's like a pendulum of where things sway to the conservative side, and then it sways to the liberal side.
Yeah, and I wouldn't use that language, by the way, Roger. I'm not comfortable with saying that it sways from the liberal to the conservative side. I would say it swings from it swings from that which is good to that which is evil, and good wins. Like Second World War would be an example of that.
Well, what I mean is, like, what we see is like a strong foundational side of like law and everything like that. Like, okay, I'll give you an example. A part of, like, I guess the more liberating side was like when there was, like, I think it was the 70s or 80s, where like there was a bunch of hippies and
yeah.
that was a thing, and
yeah.
things were becoming very liberal, and then things started to crack down. And things were starting to become a little bit more conservative and whatnot. And I think that we're right now at the extreme that we've ever seen it at. Like, people get to decide whatever they want to decide, and the lines are
against nature. I think that will be the case, right? Like, people are in a rebellion against nature, even.
So what I'm trying to say is that I think,
like, how long is it going to take?
I think that it's going to go back this way. I think things are going to start to crack down. Yeah. And this might be the thing to do it.
Yeah, no, I think slavery is a good example. Until the abolition of slavery in the 19th century in several countries, okay? Until slavery was abolished in several countries in the 19th century, that had been the way of the world. Think about that.
Yeah.
That was the way of the world. But now, in its majority, we are cracking down on slavery. You are not going to enslave people.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy because...
And I think abortion is going to go that way. For us. By the way, the majority, like my country, I'm from Brazil, abortion is illegal there. It's unthinkable. In the end, the same pro-abortionists are trying to make it legal because they want to abort babies in Brazil.
Yeah.
And as a Brazilian, I feel personally about this. You're not going to kill my compatriots. They're my brothers, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, right? So I think that's kind of where that. But it's never without a battle. That's why I'm thinking there is a fight here, good versus evil, and good is going to win. Because it always does.
Someone had painted out an analogy where it's like we're in the state where the grandparents allow the grandchildren to do whatever they want, and we're not. He's like there was a time where the grandparents were the strict ones. It's like they would send their kids outside to go work and teach them how to be tough.
Yeah.
But we're in a state where it's like they want to be liked so much by the grandchildren. It's like we need the grandfathers back that are going to be the disciplinaires.
They're going to hold the line. Yeah, the grandparents were going to hold the line. No, you shall not do this.
Yeah.
This is, and I say this in the sense that, look, we will protect your liberty by not allowing you to do this because there's a fundament here. And I think that's important to say. The fundamental argument, the foundation of this building we're trying to build, which is a pro-life building, okay, is all life is equally valuable.
And who would argue with that?
I think no one would argue with it
if it was put that way,
in the sense like, in that sense. But then when you get into the practice of it, that is what you're saying. And people do this all the time. They say, I believe this, but they live a completely different way. I mean, people do this in traffic, right? People go out there and they say, driving is dangerous. If you get in a car crash, you could die. But then they still drive, 95 miles an hour.
Recklessly, yeah.
Yeah, they still drive. They still they still run a red light. People do this all the time. They live in ways that are contrary with what they actually believe, or they say they believe. So your actions are really the ones that count.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to put those two together. Whatever you believe, you need to live it out in every part of your life. So if you believe that every life is equally valuable, you need to apply that foundational principle to abortion. You cannot, this would be consistency on your side. So anyways, unless you have any other questions,
I think that was
Rogelio, I think we covered some ground here. There's more, but we covered some ground.
I think that's a good place to end this conversation. I think that if somebody out there, the listeners, if they want us to talk a little bit more about certain topics that they felt that we just brushed on and we can tackle more, then let us know in the comments or send me a DM. Y'all know where to find me, the Real Common Podcast on Instagram. I want to thank everybody that has been messaging me recently about topics and stuff like that. I see that you're trying to engage, and I might have to start uploading 2 podcasts a week because people want me to let me shout out the reaction channel. So some of y'all are sending me content that I wouldn't be able to have an hour-long conversation on. It's more like a 15-minute reaction. So I'm making a reaction channel where I can handle that side of the content. So it's going to be called Roger Reacts, and you won't be able to find it yet because there's nothing on it, but it's created.
It's good. Good deal, man.
But yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground here, and I enjoyed it. I think
likewise, Marjan.
I think there's a lot for people to take in and to be able to make a stance and on what they believe.
Yeah, and if your audience has any questions for me, you can filter them for me. You know how to get a hold of me, so
yes, definitely.
You send me whatever it is that you think I need to see or have. I'd be glad to oblige. So
That pastor is crazy.
All right, man.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for tuning in. Italo, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you
pleasure's
on
mine,
and
pleasure.
have conversations. If you all enjoyed, make sure you share with 1 or 2 people. You can find the podcast on YouTube and Spotify. That is The Common Podcast. Instagram is The Real Common Podcast. And as always, guys, thank you all so much, and we'll catch you all next time.
Gigs on the track.